Adam slammed the door of his room, panting, sweat dripping from all over his body, blood-soaked sweat. Amsa had started all over again, now shouting even louder, banging the door even harder than before. He thought of how things could easily go wrong so fast. Just a year ago, Amsa was as harmless as a thornless rose and as beautiful or even more. She held the key to his heart. She was his happiness. Because of her, he sent his first wife packing. His first love, the one who had been with him through thick and thin, the mother of his children. Here he was, leaning on the door of his room, crying and raining curses on a woman he once sat next to in a dimly lit wedding hall, thinking she was the solution to all his problems and the seal to them. As he cursed and insulted and begged and threatened with mixed feelings of anger and fear, and yet great, great remorse, he dozed off. He woke up the next morning to the sound of nothing and a very sore and bloodied body. He unlocked the door as quietly as he possibly could, tiptoeing out. The hallway was brightly lit compared to his room, which had lost one of its light bulbs during Amsa's fits. She had thrown a shoe at him, fortunately missing target and hitting the light bulb just above him to shatters. It took some time for her eyes to adjust, and he headed straight to her room. She was lying on the floor. Her soft, silky hair was open, disheveled. Her wrapper was only covering her chest to her knees, her left hand crumpled up like an orange, and her right hand just a few feet away from the knife sharpener she had used to give Adam a beating the previous night. He took a blanket from her neatly made bed and covered her. Unaware of the warm tears dripping from his eyes and the watery mucus from his nose, he switched off the lights and quickly made to leave the room. As he turned to leave, he looked over at his sleeping wife. The way her chest rose and fell, the way her features softened, the way she softly snored. He suddenly couldn't fathom the fact that she was the same woman who had given him the beating of his life the previous night. There was no way this peaceful woman, this angel, could have been the demon he saw. For in that creature's bloodshot eyes was none of Amsa's white eyes. In that creature's anger, in its cracked, broken voice, was none of Amsa's soft, calm, and soft-spoken nature. In that fallen angel was no angel at all. As tears flowed from his eyes, as his lower lip quivered, as his anger flared, as Adam's clenched fist pounded on the smooth door, a sudden and violent toss from Amsa was just the thing to jerk him back to reality. A scared Adam quickly left for his room and took a shower as a remedy for his sore, blood-clotted, aching body, but instead resuscitated his wounds. He left the bathroom all pain and bleeding. He roughly covered his wounds, dressed up, and headed for the front door. As he put his hands on the door handle, Amsa's heavy breaths caused him to turn. She wore a puzzled look and opened her mouth to say something, hesitated, and then closed it. And in a split second, all that changed. Her eyes became red and bloodshot as she wore the most unsettling grin on her face. She let out a short laugh, and with that, Adam knew that his Amsa wasn't the one who stood there. If Adam had learned anything within his stay with this being, it was that that smile wasn't even a smile at all, and that he had to act fast. He quickly turned, shook the door expecting it to be locked, but found out it was open. He made a rash decision, rushed off to his car and started the engine to zoom off. He did not care to look back because he knew that he would see Amsa looking right back at him, and he knew that he wouldn't be able to unsee that. Amsa, however, was softly crying into the edge of her wrapper, confused. Because he moved without looking back, moving, shaking, confused, crying. And if only Adam had turned. Well, that was the thing about her jinns. When Adam would come back home, Amsa wouldn't remember a thing of what had happened the previous night. Thank you.